What was the most chaotic call out that you guys have ever had? What is the worst fake excuse that you guys have gotten? So whose team are you guys on then?
I'm on everyone's team.
So have you ever accidentally assigned a brutal ICU rotation, like a 4 week stretch, kind of but it was like an accident? What is one thing that you wish you could just ban residents from doing?
I may need to run down and grab something.
Oh. What is up, guys? How is everyone doing today? My name is Chris. Welcome to PM Rounds, where we dissect some of the most fun, interesting medical topics, as well as do a little bit of entertainment too. And in the realm of entertainment, I have some very special guests with us here today. As a matter of fact, we got our chiefs, okay? Chief residents in internal medicine who are coming on our podcast and giving us some insight into their day-to-day lives. What does a chief do? What are the pros and cons of becoming a chief? And what is it like in general? Could you guys just go around and tell us your names?
Yeah, I'm Conan. Thanks for having me on the pod.
Absolutely. Thank you, Conan.
So I'm Pat, also happy to be here.
Awesome.
Matt Pelton, I'm so glad to be a part of this.
Yeah, great. I think we're going to have a lot of fun today, guys. So, before we kind of get into the nitty gritty, what is a chief resident? For our non-medical people that are watching, what exactly does that even mean?
That's a good question. I mean, it's better to ask what is a chief resident not. I feel like you wear every single hat in the hospital. But essentially, it's like a transition year. You kind of straddle a normal resident, a medical resident, and administration. So you're kind of the bridge in between the two.
There's a lot of teaching involved too. You get to do a lot of work with students and residents and stuff like that. And you get to as Conan said, liaise between them and the administration and everything.
Yeah. What about clinical? Does the chief have clinical responsibilities as well?
It's going to be different for every residency and how they line things up. For us, some of us are primarily inpatient. So both Conan and Pat take weeks of service. For me, I'm primarily outpatient. So I'm seeing patients with the residents or precepting patients with the residents. So we do get some clinical time. In some chiefs positions, you might have more or less clinical time. Some chiefs will also be during the third year of their residency,
I see.
which is quite different because you're still doing a lot of clinical time training.
Makes sense. And I think Conan brought up earlier this whole it's almost like kind of being in between a resident, but you're not really quite like a resident. What are some kind of differences that chiefs see as a chief resident between going from resident to chief resident? In other words, I know personally as a resident, residency can be tough. It's a lot of hours, it's a lot of work, so is chief as tough as being a resident? Is it easier? Is it harder? What's your perspective on that?
It's a great question. I think it's just different. It's harder in different ways. So hours wise, no, it's not as hard as residency. We're not working the same 60-hour, 70-hour weeks, whatever. But there are other things you got to do too. I think one thing that's really different is that as a resident, policies get put into place and things happen, and it's just that's the way things are. But now we get to see behind the curtain and know why, and we know why these things happen. So it changes your perspective a little bit. Maybe makes you sympathize a little bit more with some of the harder things that you have to do as a chief that are laying down the line and stuff like that.
So whose team are you guys on then?
I'm on everyone's team.
Oh, okay. I see. You play together. Okay, yeah. No, I gotcha. So I was asking that in jest, of course. But I think it kind of brings up a fair point, where you guys are kind of almost like the liaisons between the residents and the rest of the hospital. It's you're our representation, our leadership. Do you ever find it difficult kind of being in that in-between zone where, let's say, the residents want one thing, but maybe leadership wants another? How do you guys go? Have you ever been in that situation? Could you share a story if you have one, or how in general would you approach that?
I think it's a lot about picking the battles that you want to fight, and what sort of hills are worth dying on behalf of the residents, as well as on behalf of the administration. So, for example, when we went about changing our residents' schedules so that they could go not have the Saturday 24-hour overnight shift earlier this year, bringing that subject up to the administration, we got a lot of pushback from them. But it was something that we felt that was in the interest of our residents. And so we really worked with them to work that out. And then when the administration really wants something, like residents to be more accountable on elective or something, we have to decide, is that something that we're going to fight for from our administration?
Do residents ever come to you with like something unreasonable, like crazy requests?
Like someone
Like we want to work like under 40 hours a week, or like that, like anything crazy ever come up, or like
just the ice cream machine, probably.
Yeah, what's ice cream? Tell me more about that.
We get like class rep feedback, and every month it's like, hey, can we get an ice cream machine in our lounge area? So,
I mean, this sounds like really reasonable though to me. This sounds like a very reasonable request.
Listen, man, I'd be down for it. It's just, you know.
Was there any follow up on the ice cream machine?
I'll follow up on the spirit of your prior question about, you know, if we ever feel stuck in the middle between leadership and residents. I think it's really about finding the common ground. I think at the end of the day, everyone here is here to learn and become the best doctor as you can, and that like main goal is always going to be the same, whether it's from leadership or from the residents. It's really about trying to find where that disconnect is, and try to get everyone back on that same page.
No, please start. I'm interrupting.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
I think to that point too, I think one thing that's really unique is because we still have a very strong resident perspective, but we still get the administrative perspective too. We can kind of like help mend the forces on both sides of that. So when something maybe less desirable comes down from leadership, we still have enough connection and, you know, whatnot to the residents to help explain that in a way that, you know, just to kind of help them see that side. And conversely, when there's something on the resident side, the leadership is always asking for us resident perspective too, of like how would they respond to things like that too, so we can help make sure we're advocating for both sides, you know, and help get to a more happy medium and, you know, a better place from that standpoint.
Yeah. Kind of going off that, why did you guys become chief residents? What made you choose this path? You know, perhaps I can get a response from each of you.
I'll start, man.
Sure. I enjoy teaching, and I've spent time as an educator before, throughout like high school, college. So I wanted to sort of continue that thread. The other thing for me, it really aligned with my life goals. I'm able to spend a year with my wife, my young child, before we move on to our next destination.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, so, you know, I was a little bit on the fence about applying for chief, but ultimately, you know, I kind of like Matt, I really, really like teaching. I liked working with residents and students. And so this gave me an opportunity to really explore that more. And, you know, now having done it for a year, I really want to try to continue that in the future too. And so it's kind of a good way to help build those skills from that standpoint and get some more experience there.
Yeah, it's a very common thread. I think I definitely have seen myself with a career in GME, graduate medical education, and a chief felt like kind of a once in a career opportunity to have this trial run for a year to really, you know, peel behind the curtain and see what program leadership like really worries about and what it really takes to run like a residency program.
GME, tell me more about that. Like, what does that mean, and how is that different from other stuff?
Yeah, I mean, so the residency experience in internal medicine, at least, it's 3 years. You start as an intern, and then in 2 years you're a senior, and in that time you're supposed to somehow get competent enough to independently practice or go on to fellowship, or, you know, just become a really great internist. That whole process is not, you know, not that long of a time to do all that stuff, right? So it's really about catering that experience and really building that program, building that sense of togetherness for the residents to actually have the right environment to learn and gain those skills in. I think that's kind of very difficult to put together and keep together.
Yeah. So does being a chief help you, like, do you guys see it as like a way to make yourself competitive for that next step? So if you do want, let's say you do want a career in like GME, or you want a career in academic medicine, is this kind of what chiefs usually do afterwards, or is there something else that chiefs pursue? Like, where do chiefs go after they complete their chief years?
It helps in all aspects of career development, because as an employer is looking at you, they can see that you are in the top 10% or so as the assumption of your class that goes on to become chief residents.
Maybe for you guys, but I don't know about me.
So it is a big thing, because it's sort of assumed that everybody would like to be chief, whether that assumption is correct or not. And it shows that you can be in a leadership role where you're managing a number of people. So it can help you for jobs down the line as program directors, assistant program directors, if you want to stay in internal medicine. Or it can also help you going into other fields like fellowship fields, make yourself look like a more competitive applicant.
Mm-hmm. Is it true that when a chief applies to like fellowship or jobs, that they almost get put in like a separate pile than like everyone else? Is does it have that degree of influence?
I've heard for some fellowships it's that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think it depends upon like, a lot of different places where you're applying to. Like for hospitalist jobs I'm applying to right now, I think it does make a little bit of a difference, but also like experience and everything leads into that too. But I think from a fellowship perspective, for sure, there is definitely like a chief candidate versus non-chief candidate pile. As far as that's what you guys are familiar with, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you guys should stay tuned for Chris's fellowship program director episode.
Oh yeah, that one's in the works. All right, you heard it here first, folks. That one's coming up next. All right.
But I can definitely say that I think Conan and I both interviewed at some places that we may not have interviewed at if we had not been a chief resident.
Wow.
And I think from a hospitalist perspective too, like especially if like coming out of residency, if you're looking for an academic position, having that chief year is like certainly an extra leg up too, because
it's very helpful.
You already can show that you've done work teaching residents, and assumably you've done a good job with that too. So it puts you in a different tier from that perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any like skills that you guys became like unexpectedly good at, or skills that you gained that you wouldn't necessarily know that you would have expected to have with being chief? Kind of butchered that question, but any new skills that you guys developed that you didn't quite expect during your chief year?
Yeah, emails.
Yes.
Emails?
I was definitely...
What's the inbox total per day that we look at usually?
It depends on the time of year. Now it's more manageable. In the summer, there was a lot of stuff. Application time, there's a lot of stuff.
Are we in triple digits, or like in the
like a
in
day?
No.
Okay, but we're in the doubles though.
Yeah,
Okay.
like 20 maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Is there any email subject line that you see and you just go, oh no, I know where this is going?
Sometimes we'll get an email from our program from Dr. Dave, and I'll just say, ugh, and I'm just like, oh no, this is not going to be good. So, sorry, hit the mic there. Yeah.
No worries.
But yeah, it's like like not just emails, but just organization as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of all the moving parts, like because you're the man in the middle, everyone is going to reach out to you and ask for things.
Or woman in the middle.
Yeah, true. Person in the middle.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Everyone wants a piece of the pie, right? So people from kind of all over the hospital will kind of reach out to you and ask, do you have time to come to this workshop? Are you able to join this committee? Do you want to host Challenge Bowl and Jeopardy for NJACP, things like that?
You get pulled in a lot of directions.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
We're like mozzarella cheese, Just,
yeah, and you never break,
Exactly.
No, that's so funny. I think Pat actually touched upon this, but you are the guys that are like building the schedule, right? You're determining where kind of all the residents are at any given times. So you guys are actually a big deal. Like, you make sure that, the ICU is covered, that the night shifts are covered, the day shifts are covered. You guys are the guys.
And that's why I would say all residents should really treat their chiefs well.
Yeah.
Or it might reflect in your schedule.
So I was going to ask, so have you ever accidentally assigned like a brutal ICU rotation, like a 4-week stretch? Kind of like, but like it was like an accident. You know what I mean?
I actually did it to you when I was making your schedule.
What?
Before I started the final thing, I changed it, but I looked and I was like, I had you on ICU nights and ICU days back to back, so you had a month that was awful in January. So I fixed that for you.
So that means so that reflects good on me. Okay, this is a good thing.
Well,
that's a good thing.
So Matt and I put together the yearly schedule, and then we all do the monthly schedule afterwards. And I think, Matt and I, we've tried very hard to not make weeks like that were so crazy, and sometimes things happen. And then sometimes people trade their schedules, and then they have these awful schedules. It's like, well, why is my schedule so bad? And it's like, well, why'd you make those trades?
Fair enough.
But intentionally, we were always trying to give people a reasonable schedule.
But if I wasn't such a likable guy, would you have potentially kind of left that 4-week stretch? You know what I mean?
Listen, I went through, and there were a couple residents I did that, like, I fixed them. So,
Okay.
But if, I did extra special care for you. I can't do
you.
this
I
to Chris.
I appreciate it, Pat. Thank you.
They did it the old-fashioned way, too. No AI, no schedulers, just Excel sheet.
Wow.
A little bit of psychosis, but that's okay. So
How long did it take you to make the schedule for all, what is it, 70 residents?
well,
Sure.
he did the interns.
24 interns.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mine was like 47, I think, or 46 or something like that.
Wow.
It took me, I think, like 100 hours total. So I did it over the entire month of May, or probably like end of April into middle of May.
And you were still a resident at that time,
Mm-hmm.
juggling your clinical responsibilities with that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he was on the beach actually.
Okay, no, I was not. I was in St. Lucia taking a call about it. So actually, yes, you're right. But I did do a lot of it when I was home. I had like a week of elective, and then I was on floors, and my interns could tell you I was a little bit aloof that week, but
a little stressed. Yeah,
but,
pulled in a lot of
it
directions.
got them a good schedule, hopefully, so it was worth it.
And I will say that it's one of the more rewarding things that we get to do in residency. If you have someone come to you and say, "Hey, I know I made this vacation request, but I really want to spend this specific week on vacation." If we can move things around and we can make that happen for people, or when people have a death in the family and we can get them bereavement time, that feels really rewarding as a chief resident.
Totally agree.
That's actually huge. What is the craziest kind of request that you've gotten, or the craziest swap that you've ever seen had to coordinate, if you can remember one?
Well, I mean, my favorite request is from one of our residents who was in my firm last year, who at the end of the year when I was still making the schedule, will just be like, Pat, I have this really great vacation already planned for July. Like, is there any way you could give me 2 weeks of vacation in the beginning of the year? And I did, but it was kind of very abnormal to have that, so that was kind of funny.
He had already booked, two $4,000 tickets or something?
Yes, it was $10,000 altogether. He's like, yeah, so
it'd
be really great if I could do this vacation.
It's you don't have a choice.
I could have but I was not. I tried not to.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Yeah.
I know what you guys.
I think the request that was most interesting to me is one of our residents really wanted to spend a month, his whole vacation, in one go as an intern. And I was a little worried about that because you don't have any other breaks during the year.
That's a good point.
But he was, he really wanted to do this, and he's going to travel to Mecca and Medina during Ramadan. And really, I hope that he and his wife get a lot out of that. Wow. And he's done well despite that.
Incredible. Very nice. Yeah.
So normally, we do these blocks of vacation. We don't normally put it all together, but we were able to do that for him.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Kind of going back to your roles as chief and kind of why you kind of chose to pursue chief. Who should have what do you think is a good candidate for chief? What kind of residents should think about doing this? And are there any residents who perhaps should not think about doing chief?
So I can take this, and I think addressing the second part of your question first. As we mentioned before, there are a lot of perks, professional perks that come with being a chief, as far as getting higher up in the queue as far as fellowships go, or professionally in positions in leadership and things like that as well too. But I think if your only interest is to do it to further your career, I think that's the wrong reason to do it. I think you have to have a strong desire to do teaching, to work with residents, to work with students, from all levels, from levels above you to below you. And I think having that love or that desire is really important. And I think if you're really just in it for the end game, that's probably not the right reason to.
Absolutely. What about you guys?
I think you have to have a lot of social awareness to be able to read the room, read what residents are feeling, respond to their needs, and provide reassurance, provide change when you can, as well as bringing that into the space when you're working with the administration. There's a lot of conflict mediation that happens because, as in every workspace, there's issues that arise, and we do our best to navigate those. So I would say that social awareness and that ability to be flexible, to do work when you need to, are really big skills. Mm-hmm. I would say somebody who maybe shouldn't apply is someone who has difficult with that social interaction or organizational skills, because you're navigating a lot of different needs from different people and a lot of different tasks that need to get done.
And a lot of spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think it should make sense with your life, So if you have a partner or a family or something else, and you just want to get onto fellowship or onto your job or onto the next thing, it may not make sense to do a cheap year. And you are sacrificing a year of attending salary at the end of your career, if you think about it that way. So, for all the same reasons to do chief, reasons to not do chief is if you don't particularly fit the personality or your career goals, and even in the short term, financially or life-wise, make sure it makes sense too.
And I think one thing going off I was thinking about too is like sometimes people will take a year regardless to do either hospitalist medicine or to research or something like that as well too. I think if you're thinking about doing chief as like an easy like gap year, I think that's not true.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Like it's not, it's definitely more challenging than people would realize.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Do you have any advice for potential residents who might be watching who want to be considered, maybe become chiefs one day in their own program? Second year residents, interns, things like that. Do you have any advice for them on how they can maybe stand out or what they can do within their program that they would be looked upon favorably during this process and, reach that kind of like cream of the crop that they're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, the interview starts on day one.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really, again, all the interpersonal things, showing leadership qualities, showing that you can really get a sense of your peers and the residency and set the tone of the culture. All of that really starts the day that you set foot into your residency, and building that right reputation and having that drive to really make the place better for everyone around you.
Absolutely.
Be a role model. Be a role model for interns when you're their senior. Be a role model for medical students when you're their intern. Every step along the way, and really also the interpersonal stuff. Some things get around interactions that are bad with nursing, with staff, with administrative people. All of those can really come back to bite you. So just be a good, nice person.
Got to be a team player.
Yeah, you got to really be a team player and
be likable.
Be pleasant and say thank you.
And I think kind of going back to what Conan was saying too, and Matt was saying is the leadership perspective too is it's not necessarily like if you have to be a leader on every program that you have, and you have to be like your residency council leader and stuff like that too. There are many different forms of leadership. There's ways to show leadership during rounds when you're leading rounds in a great way, or if you're doing a good job teaching med students and leading them in that perspective too. So there are a lot of little things that go into it that if you pay attention to, or again everyone is paying attention to, that also add up. So there's other ways to display your leadership skills in that capacity.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. That's great advice. Thank you. I kind of want to go through, I'd love to hear if you guys have any interesting stories or any kind of comments as well, but I'd love to kind of go through some kind of fun or spicy questions. ChatGPT help me generate some of these guys. I said like spicy questions to ask chiefs. So here's some fun ones. So what was the most chaotic call out that you guys have ever had?
Dude. 2 days ago.
What happened?
The snowstorm.
The snowstorm. Oh, yeah,
so
inclement weather. Yeah.
For reference, we're in New Jersey. It's February right now. So we got 2 big snowstorms this year after like 4 years of very mild winters. And people just don't know how to act. I mean,
both of which Conan was on call for. Thank the Lord.
Yeah, it's really difficult. The timing of these snowstorms were perfect because it's always the Sunday night into Monday morning when everyone changes services and people are post nights. But our residents really toughed it out. Like super, props to all of them. They truly made all their best efforts to come in, and they covered for each other.
Yeah.
Didn't Chris himself cover?
Yeah.
I think I did. I did cover one shift. Let the record.
That was a little bit of a leading question. You said yourself.
Yeah, fair enough. Made myself look good here, you know.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the most chaotic callouts are during I don't want to say disasters because that feels like a strong word, but like snowstorms, inclement weather.
Well, Matt was the chief in July when we had a hurricane too that drenched everybody. People couldn't get through the roads because so. I think only I have been on during a natural disaster. So
how many people called out? Let's say the snowstorm on Monday, for instance.
Yeah. So. It was kind of difficult. So we have 2 sites at Princeton and Robert Wood.
Yeah.
Most people were able to walk to Robert Wood. And Princeton was kind of tougher. There's a lot of smaller roads leading into the hospital. So we were pretty bare bones on that day, just safety wise.
Mhm.
We had some residents that had to dig their cars out with dinner plates, and then eventually made their way in. But we had some real troopers, like some overnight residents stayed longer so
Yeah.
that the roads could get cleared, our residents could go in. I think everyone really rallied to cover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all. That's awesome. That's
But
awesome.
we were down like half the residents at Princeton.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think the other chaotic one I'll say is when residents aren't sure what they want and they call you and they're like, "Oh, I got a stomach bug," and I'm like, "Okay,
So
are
you
you
coming in or
calling
not?
out?" You're like, "I'm gonna try to make it in tonight. Can I check in with you in
Do or
3
do
hours?"
not.
It's just like you like go back and forth, or they feel afraid to call out because it's putting burden on their
Yeah.
co-residents, and so I really try to encourage people to call out when they're feeling sick or when something is happening in their family, because that time is important, and that's why your colleagues are there to cover you in those situations.
I got called in last year. This is not when I was chief, but I got called in last year because someone concussed themselves while they were here. So
Because someone what?
concussed themselves while they were here, or earlier in the day or something.
Oh,
Hit the head
like
on the
what? Like on
cabinet.
the stairs? Or
No, on the cabinet, like
Ah, been there. Yeah. Tall people problems.
It sure
Yeah.
couldn't be me.
No, you're pretty tall. What are you like you're like a 5'10", right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And that rounds to 6 foot, right?
Yeah,
So,
pretty much, yeah.
there you go. What is the worst fake excuse that you guys have gotten ever for a call out?
Oh, we believe all our residents.
Yeah, no one ever lies to
Yeah,
us. Are you
yeah.
kidding me?
Has there ever been something like weird or kind of oh, come on, dude, just come in, Or do you? It's fair if do you really take everyone at their word, and is there that degree of trust within the program? But then deep down, you're
We try to maintain that degree of trust.
Yes.
Definitely an innocent until proven guilty thing. We're not looking for trouble. We're not looking to
that's
get
good
people
culture.
in trouble. Yeah.
That's good culture.
Yeah, that's the tone that we're trying to set, and if people want to take advantage of that, then it can't really continue. But we've been good this year.
Yeah.
Everything has seemed real from what we could tell, So
Yeah. No, that's amazing. That's amazing. Kind of going into more spicy questions. What is one thing that you wish you could just ban residents from doing that they do all the time? If there is something. Maybe we're perfect. Maybe we're just that good. We can always come back to that one. We can come back to that one.
We'll think about that one.
Yeah, kind of put that one on the back burner, put that one on the back burner. So another thing that I kind of wanted to go over was, why don't you walk me through what a day in the life of is? What time do you guys come in? What time do you leave the hospital? How many hours are spent teaching? How many hours at the computer? That kind of thing. Clinical care.
Are you asking July chief or February chief?
Fair enough. Let's pick somewhere in the middle. Let's say October.
Okay. All right.
Sure.
Should we start? All right.
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
our schedules are different because Matt's at Princeton.
Fair enough. Yeah. So maybe let's hear kind of something from each of you guys then. Yeah.
Okay. So we, if you're going back to fall, Pat and Conan, we'd get here 8:30ish, 9ish, somewhere within that time period. Some days earlier if we have special lectures we're doing for the firms, the AM curriculum people during the week. And then our mornings usually spent doing some administrative stuff, whether it's answering emails, getting schedules together. Oftentimes we're getting lectures ready for the afternoon. We have our noon conference, which we're always running, and oftentimes we're doing cases or having, speakers come on and everything like that as well too. Afternoon is usually, again, some more of that, downtime, administrative time. We have meetings oftentimes with leadership during then as well, too. And then depending upon the day, usually around 4ish or so we'd head out, And then, so, roughly 8:30 to 4ish when we're not on service. When you're on service, it's different, obviously, because then you're balancing clinical time with administrative time, although I think Conan and I have done a good job this year of sort of once when one of us is on service, the other one takes the bulk of everything else, too, to balance it out, so.
So it sounds like when you're not on service, and how many weeks are you guys on service per year?
13.
Yeah.
And is that split or each?
Each.
Each, okay. So outside those 13 weeks, is the chief job pretty I don't want to say 9 to 5-ish, but then at the same time, is it really 9 to 5?
Yeah.
Are you guys getting calls or doing emails at night or
Yeah, so it's technically somewhat like an office job where you do more administrative things. The best part of the day is noon conference where you teach the residents, And there's different parts interspersed throughout the day, like Pat said, that we do things here on site. At home, I typically try to stay away from the email when I get home, but the text messages, the calls, those are always available. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
And we've helped also with that because we this year decided to do like an on-call chief system. So not all of us are on call all the time. So like if someone has an issue, they text whoever it's like on call for that week, which is really nice.
Okay. That's a good idea.
And that, like when you're on call, that can be very hit and miss. You can get no calls or texts. You can be scrambling to replace an entire rotation for somebody and move schedules around. So it kind of ebbs and flows.
How is your kind of schedule different from Conan and Pat's?
My schedule, so my clinical responsibilities are every week I have 3 half days of clinic, and then coming as well to this are meeting with the PDs.
Mm-hmm.
Then noon conference at Princeton is me to organize every day. So those are my kind of main responsibilities. I do a lot of my admin stuff from home. I have a windowless office at Princeton that I don't really like to use that much because I don't get to see the residents or get to be in a nice space, frankly.
Fair enough.
So I do most of my admin from home. Most days I have a longer drive, so I get to Princeton around 11:30. I do noon conference, and in that morning I'm usually doing admin up until then, like from like 9 to 11.
Mm-hmm.
And then do noon conference. Typical day I would have clinic in the afternoon, and I leave when the last resident leaves, which is usually about 6.
Wow. What a leader right there.
That is good leadership traits right there.
Not a lever.
So
I like that one actually. I like that one.
There we go.
So what about your day-to-day do you not like? What do you wish you could change about, like, being chief, or what's a gripe that you have about your job?
I really wished I could leave earlier in clinic.
Fair enough. That's a good one, actually.
Just kidding.
I've kept you there a couple times.
No,
It's been my fault. It's been my fault too. So I'll take responsibility. I'm a late leaver.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I think one thing, it's not necessarily a day-to-day thing, but there's a lot of ebbs and flows to the job too. Like there are some weeks where like we have applicants coming in and we have like our own residents out applying and we have lectures to get together, and it's like you have like a million things to do in a day. And then you have other weeks like this week where Conan and I are on service and we're sitting here making puzzles in the afternoon, so
yeah.
the ebb and flow of it is a little bit challenging from that perspective. So I would like more of an even experience, but that's not really reasonable. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I will say the other insight that this year has given me is at some point down the line, you're going to have to decide how much clinical you want to do in your day-to-day, right? Like you're going to hear people say like 70-30 splits or 50-50 or like some number of clinical, non-clinical. And the non-clinical can be admin like this, medical education, research, etc. And this has been like a really great trial run of we're somewhat like a 75-25 admin to clinical split. So I think this is pretty similar to what I probably want in my future.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a good kind of trial run for that.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, absolutely. Kind of going off that, what's the favorite part of your day? It's like the absolute favorite thing that you get to do.
I mean,
that
Jeopardy.
you probably are going to miss next year.
Jeopardy is great. We do love doing Jeopardy. But I think part of that is because for me, I mean, I'm sure you guys feel the same way, but I love interacting with the residents. Like, Matt is, again, his office is a little bit different at Princeton, but for Conan and I, our office is right next to the resident workroom. So the amount of times you just wander in there and just bother people while they're trying to do work, bother people and just kind of mess around and just chat with everybody. I think that's really fun, just to kind of interact with everybody and see what's going on and everything like that.
Yeah, agree. Easy answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I think that you guys kind of bring up a good point that, I think we got very lucky with our chief. So you guys this year where you're very approachable, and I
Don't have to oversell us.
I mean, I can.
Your schedule's already set in
with,
stone.
Fair enough. But I speak for a lot of other residents when I say that, I feel like we can kind of approach you guys, tell you guys anything. But it's also kind of interesting to think about it because you guys are also in a way our bosses too. How are you guys able to cultivate that relationship with essentially, your residents, your employees? I don't want to say employees, but with your residents to make yourselves like approachable. Was that something that you guys kind of actively sought to do, or did that just happen naturally by just kind of being like a good leader, or maybe your personal attributes or something like that?
I mean, so I can take this one. I mean, I think, a big part of it, like whenever you're a leader, there are different leadership styles and there are different ways to be. Like, there's very authoritative. I tend to take more of like the brotherly or fatherly perspective too. So I mean, that's just the way it is. So that's why I like talking with the residents and everything like that and having that relationship there too.
I feel that.
And thank you. From my perspective, like the way I think by building those relationships helps me just connect with them and then also help, like get things done that I need to, and that everything knows is coming from a place of like caring and everything like that as well too. And I think the thing that, as you mentioned, the kind of the line in the sand is you always have to have a literal line in the sand, like a border line that you don't go over too, because you are at the end of the day like your bosses or whatever there too. So there is still a little bit of a degree of separation. But for me, I'm probably a little closer than maybe our chiefs have otherwise been. I don't know. That's just my personality and how I work best from that perspective. Yeah. I don't know if you guys feel differently.
I think I do think a big part of it is making yourself compassionate and intentional in the way you respond to a resident, because a resident are going to come to you with complaints, and the most important thing in that interaction, whatever the result of it, is that you say that their complaints are real. The situation and what you're experiencing, your feelings are real. Whether that's going to turn into a change in our policy or some actionable thing is not always the case, but it's important that residents feel heard, and that you walk people through that process. And it's also important that residents share with us when they are having those struggles. And we can talk through solutions and things, but processing that emotionally, I think, is the most important part of it.
Yeah, and that definitely plays into building that relationship for when you do have to give feedback that is constructive, having it land. So if you are, having that trusting relationship, they are coming to you with their problems and you can workshop them in real time, whereas they, in a different scenario where they may be more, afraid of repercussions, you might hear about it later down the line, and there may be other downstream consequences. So I feel like we have that relationship with our residents.
All right, welcome back. We're here just after a short break, and now we're going to ask kind of one of the heavy questions. So, big question for our chief residents, who at this point we're in March or, February, March. There's only about 3 months the chief year left, right? If you could go back, would you do it again?
I would, for sure. I'm very sad it's ending. I've really enjoyed being chief, so I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Okay, that's
absolutely
fine. Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna miss these guys, and I'm gonna miss this program a lot, and I've learned a lot from the experience.
Yeah.
We have a good crew. I think we all get along very well. We have our little Thursday hangouts. We got some beers last week, which was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
I don't know, whatever. But yeah. So it's been a fun year. I've really enjoyed it. It's been, like as Matt said, a lot of growth too, I think. So
I've learned a lot about how programs work. A lot more than maybe I need to know about my residents at times, but it's been good.
Did you do it again?
Absolutely. Same reasons. Yeah, only if you guys were my residents, though.
Fair enough. Okay, now here's the second part to that question. Let's say, hypothetically, next year, no one wants to be chief. No one, for some reason, which would be crazy.
I don't think we're going to have that problem.
I know we're not going to have that problem. I think there's a lot of people next year, who, especially in this program, who really, are interested in the position. But hypothetically, let's say that interest vanished, and they say, hey, guys, listen, we really need you. Would you do a second chief year?
Well, you guys can't.
Okay, well, and let's take the need out of it. So let's just step it back to would you guys do another chief year again if you had an opportunity to do another one?
So I'm going to change the question a little bit. We did have this hypothetical that what if 2 of us died in a freak accident?
We talked about this before we even started.
Freak accident.
We I don't know. We're on the same plane together to the conference. What if we just all vanished off the face of the earth?
What if we're in New Orleans, right? Yeah. And just you Mardi Gras too hard and something happens. What would they do?
Sorry, guys.
No, you're getting
on the AIM website, they do put up chief jobs.
That's true.
I don't know if you guys I get the emails. Sometimes they do. So maybe they would search.
Yeah, outside hire.
Or ask people who are doing hospitalist years.
You could come here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, realistically speaking, like Matt and Conan can't because they're going to be in fellowship. They already have contracts signed. Like they're not able to get out of that. So I feel like I'm the only one that can actually answer this. Who's doing like hospitalist for next year? Like if it were to come up and there was a way for me to do it, I probably would do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Like if I need to hold it over for a few months, like say someone like I don't know. I don't want to wish anything bad actually on the future chief, but regardless, like say something happened, like I would be happy to help.
Nice. That's a good answer.
If I were doing hospitalist next year, I would say I would hold it over, but I would not do it another full year. If they absolutely needed me to sit in a couple months while they found somebody, yes. But the cost, it's just a financial thing for me.
Yeah.
Of course, fair enough.
That the earning difference would be important to me and my family.
What if they paid you like a hospitalist?
If they paid me like a hospitalist, I would probably. I think I'd probably do it.
What if they paid you 3 chief salaries?
That's more than
Depends on the hospitalist.
Would you do this alone?
Oh no, no, definitely not alone.
Yeah. Does anyone know? Like, I actually have a good point. Why do we have 3 chiefs? Like, where'd that number come from? Why not 4, for instance?
We used to have 2
Interesting.
when Dr. Fanning was chief.
Yeah.
Was it like
And
too
Dr.
much? So like, for our audience members, our residents cover 2 hospitals. We have 2 Robert Wood chiefs, 1 Princeton chief. I think we discussed that earlier. But so there used to be just 1 and 1, I'm guessing.
I don't think that they had Princeton Clinic at all. I don't think they had Princeton Clinic responsibilities at my
Mm-hmm.
guess. And that it was just Robert Wood floors.
But what do they do for like doing conferences over there?
I think they might have gone over there for
That's crazy.
noon conference or zoomed over there. I'm not sure.
That's
We'd have to
crazy.
ask Fanning.
Did Zoom even exist?
Yeah,
Skype over there.
That's true.
And then so they upped it to 3 at some point, presumably because it was like too much work, or maybe the clinic came in or something.
Yeah. I don't know the lore, to be honest with you, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm happy.
Maybe next episode you can get Chrissy on.
Yeah. We'll have a PD episode.
Yeah,
that could
PD
be a lot of
episode.
fun, actually.
Yeah.
No, I love that. Yeah, no, that's awesome.
But I think they've certainly found enough work by now for 3.
Yeah, for sure. What
would
about
be
4?
tough.
Would they add? Let's say they were between 4 like really outstanding candidates for chief next year. Do you think they would add a 4th, or would that probably that's just not realistic? Maybe the money's not there. Maybe there's.
I think the money.
I think they'll have to make a hard decision.
Yeah.
There's only a certain amount of funding they get for us, so they wouldn't be able to make another salary position, I think.
Yeah. Fair enough. Is there an average number of people that apply for chief each year? Like, what is it usually? Does it fluctuate? Is it?
It fluctuates.
Yeah.
Our year was 4, and then the year before us it was 6. Year after us was like 8 or 9 or something like
Wow.
that.
But this is for 3 spots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it really varies year to year, I think.
And then other years they're begging someone to apply because they don't have enough applicants.
Yeah, it just so happened. Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Do you guys have any additional advice, kind of closing remarks for any residents out there, for just, let's say, succeeding in residency or people aspiring to academic positions or leadership positions? Any things that you wish maybe you would have done?
I've been waiting to say something, actually.
Mhm.
We haven't asked you any questions.
Uh-oh.
Our host in the hot seat.
It's supposed to be one way. No, you guys are allowed if you want, but
I just want to hear from your perspective,
Mhm.
like what do you expect out of a chief? Like what do you want more of? So what's the resident perspective?
yeah, I mean that's a great question. So I'll come in from the PGY2 kind of perspective here. So I think an ideal chief is, for me, the most important thing is approachability. I think that's the most important thing, because it's when I need you guys, let's say I have to, clarify the rules about the number of patients we're supposed to take in a given day. Let's say I'm not feeling well and I need to call out, which you guys know never happens with me, but let's say, or hypothetically, if an emergency came up, or there was a death in the family or something tragic, you guys would be the first people that I would reach out to. And then so it's really important for me from the resident perspective to have chiefs that are approachable. And I think you guys have really, really succeeded in that 100%. So I think we really lucked out with that guy, with that aspect. So I think approachability is the number one thing. I think we also look for people who are good teachers and who we can learn from. not only when we're kind of on the wards and like, you're our attendings when we're doing like floors or precepting in clinic, for instance, people that can teach us and show us, if we're doing something wrong or doing something suboptimally, kind of correct that so that, we're ready for the next step. And I think I think I've actually had the opportunity to work with each of you, except Pat. We never worked together on floors, unfortunately. But I remember I worked with Conan on floors last year, and I've worked with Matt at least in like Princeton Clinic and like precepted to him. And I mean, I know that all you guys are really good at teaching, and something that I'm always trying to do is, and I feel like I always use this word, is I'm always trying to level up. We talked about it last year. Remember,
yeah,
like
turn into a
Charmander.
from a Charmander to Charmeleon.
Yeah. I think I made it to Charmeleon at some point, maybe right before PGY2, like right in.
You leveled up enough to evolve.
Yeah. So I think I was like leveling up a lot when I was with Conan, as I was his intern last year on floors, so that was a lot of fun. So I definitely went up a few levels. But anyway, we're looking for like people who are great educators as well. And to me, those are probably the two most important things, as well as the slew of other things that we've kind of talked about.
All right, nice.
Yeah.
So for my closing remarks, be approachable, be a good teacher.
That was good. You took the words right out of my mouth.
I think one thing that's really important too is like flexibility and like a willingness to like do things, with our job. Like as Matt said, and as Conan have said too, that people come to us with a variety of things, and realistically speaking, there's a variety of ways we can go about it for how flexible we want to be, how many mountains do we want to move to make things happen too. And I think for us, like it's been important for us to prioritize the residents' well-being and to do as much as we can from that standpoint there too. So being flexible with ourselves and making the schedules coming up with creative solutions and being willing to go that extra mile too is not only helpful as a chief, but also like in residency, because things are always changing. Being flexible from that standpoint too, I think having that adaptability is really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
The last thing I'll say is it's a competitive process to apply for being chief, just like it's a competitive process to apply for other jobs and things. And you may not get the position as a chief, and that's okay, because also like all across academic fields, there's different pathways to things. If you want to stay in academia, you don't have to be a chief resident. Most people in academia are not chief residents, or we're not chief residents.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people that are not chief go to very fantastic fellowship programs, go on to be program directors, go on to be leaders in the field of internal medicine. It's not a be all end all. So, be yourself. If it works out for you, if it's right, and fantastic. But yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. We have, Matt Pelton, Pat Saulino, Conan Chen, our chiefs. I'm Chris, your host. This was PM Rounds. I hope you enjoyed the feature episode with our chief residents. Thank you very much. Have a nice day, everybody.
See you guys.